I get stopped for photos every time I'm online for the Snow White ride, and it is I have to pretend like, oh God, well, crazy that we're in front of this.
We had Rachel Zegler on the docket. She's an asshole.
Snow White, of course, famously played by the insufferable girl boss narcissist who's just clinical.
Pretending like Rachel Zegler is the first of them all when she looks like Lord Farquaad in the film.
I'm guessing that she's not married. I'm guessing that she doesn't have kids. The movie is a complete disaster, by the way.
Rachel Zegler's Disney dream might be over. Group chat screenshots allegedly show her mocking hardcore Disney fans, calling them cringe, obsessed, and even low IQ. Almost immediately, social media erupted with outrage. People who once supported her demanded that Disney remove her from the upcoming Snow White remake, launching hashtags like #NotMySnowWhite. As the evidence piled up, the calls to boycott grew louder.
If you disagree with this sentiment, I don't need your business. Thanks.
You know, I don't need your business. You know what? Maybe Disney does. Maybe you're a tool, you're a pawn in this film. You didn't write it. You didn't direct it. You have nothing to do with the creation of Snow White.
Right.
You should shut up and do the job.
Within days, this scandal soared beyond standard internet drama. Influencers and even some former Disney staff members chimed in, labeling it a colossal error in judgment. Some believe the entire leak was an act of revenge from someone in Rachel's inner circle. Others say it's the result of arrogance backfiring at the worst possible moment. Whatever the truth, it left a clear message. Disney fans won't tolerate feeling disrespected, especially not by a star meant to personify one of their most cherished fairy tale characters.
Feminists now are telling us that's ridiculous. How dare you want to meet a handsome prince and be swept off of your feet and live happily ever after? No, you should want to be the prince. You should want to go out and fight the bad guy.
The meltdown didn't happen in a vacuum, though. Rachel's pattern of controversial statements like criticizing the original 1937 Snow White movie and dismissing its traditional love story meant the fandom was already wary of her. Now, with these insults circulating everywhere, she's at the center of a raging storm that might end her career. The internet has turned on her, demanding she step down or at least confront the fallout. But that's just the start of a scandal that involves accusations of betrayal, political feuds, and a shockingly low box office performance.
They spent $170 million to make the thing, and it had the lowest opening, under $50 million, of any of these live-action Disney remakes that they've ever had.
And now Disney, quite possibly, could lose $300 million on this thing because the production budget was about $300 million at least.
Let's break down the chain of events that turned a rising star into Disney's biggest liability. Fans first caught wind of the controversy when blurry screenshots hit social media platforms. At first, some people dismissed them as fakes who would be bold enough to insult Disney's core supporters so explicitly, but as the chatter continued, more evidence surfaced, and fan accounts scrutinized details like profile pictures, usernames, and timestamps. The conclusion was explosive. These messages really seemed to come from Rachel Zegler. She allegedly used words like obsessed and low IQ to describe die-hard Disney fanatics.
Okay, it's great. I'm honored. I don't know why I sound so angry right now. I'm honored. Am I a psychopath?
In another snippet, she reportedly mocked parkgoers who dress as cartoon animals or characters at theme events. Each new screenshot felt like more gasoline poured on the flames. Within hours, hashtags like Replace Rachel trended alongside Not My Snow White, demanding her removal from the upcoming live-action remake. Disney influencers, people generally known for positivity, condemned her statements.
Rachel Zegler was a bad decision from day one. She can sing, I'll give her that, but she's got a lot of power, but absolutely no range. Plus, on the flip side, she can't act, and she's a smug big mouth, which even Disney now admits they couldn't control.
Have they ever thought about maybe like a little bit of like, I don't know, vulnerability study, opposition research, that sort of thing, before you go and hire some Zoomer who's a lunatic?
Flooding the conversation with disappointment and anger, some shared personal stories of how Disney's magic helped them through tough times, making Rachel's alleged insults feel even more offensive. Debate soon surfaced over whether the screenshots were doctored, but the general sentiment on social media was that the messages looked disturbingly real, and even if the actress herself wouldn't confirm or deny their authenticity, public perception was already cemented. Rachel had insulted the bedrock of Disney's audience.
The star, Rachel Zegler, is unbelievably charmless in public.
So she comes off as an insufferable, whiny brat.
Zegler, like so many kids raised on TikTok, she's all for infantada is the only global solution.
After the initial shock, the question became, Who leaked these messages, and why? Rumors pointed to a circle of longtime friends, plus a former PR assistant and a rising influencer. One insider claimed the leak was triggered by personal animosity. Rachel had allegedly been belittling someone in the group chat for months. Fed up, that person collected screenshots and videos as leverage, only to drop them at the perfect moment. The smoking gun text widely shared on social media showed Rachel supposedly saying she would rather eat glass than greet another sweaty dad in a dwarf costume asking for an autograph.
Let's address the elephant in the room. I'm the hottest person in the world. Of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
That line alone outraged countless fans, who found it demeaning, out of touch, and downright cruel. It got reposted and analyzed more than 100,000 times within a day. All of this sparked a full-on revolt across Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube, with many insisting Rachel had crossed a line by making fun of a community that invests time, money, and heart into the Disney brand. The sense of betrayal was palpable, given that these fans had once shown her massive support during the early promotion of Snow White.
Have you ever been to that Snow White ride at Disneyland?
I get stopped for photos every time I'm online for the Snow White ride, and it is I have to pretend like, oh God, well, crazy that we're in front of this.
What made you want to step into this world of DC heroes? I needed a job.
Now, her reputation was in free fall, and she was nowhere to be found. In the face of such a massive backlash, most celebrities or studios rush out a statement. They deny, apologize, or explain. Rachel did none of that. Days went by with no word from her official accounts. No tweets, no videos, not even a PR-crafted excuse. Fans labeled her silence PR suicide.
The centerpiece of this story is how bad PR can really cost an ambitious project hundreds of millions of dollars, which I personally find fascinating.
Questioning how she could claim to love the Disney community and then ignore their outrage. Some speculated her lawyers advised her to keep quiet to avoid liability. Others theorized she was trying to see if the uproar would die down without her fueling it further. But the public silence seemed to confirm guilt in many people's minds. Creators and influencers, often the ones who keep controversies alive, pounced on the story's every angle. A former Disney social media strategist told one outlet that attacking Disney's core audience was the ultimate mistake. You can criticize a studio's marketing or creative decisions, but going after fans themselves is the fastest way to ensure they turn against you.
Starring Rachel Zegler, and in the process shattered more little girls' dreams than Harvey Weinstein. That's why no one bothered to show up. Empty theaters across the country tell the true story about this crime against cinema.
Amid the silence, conspiracy theories started circulating. One suggested that someone within Disney orchestrated the leak to justify a future recasting, potentially distancing the studio from a sinking ship. Another claimed Rachel's team staged a deepfake leak to paint her as a victim of digital manipulation. However, tech-savvy experts pointed out the screenshots looked convincingly real. The longer she stayed quiet, the stronger these theories became. Of course, this wasn't Rachel's first run-in with controversy. While she received praise for her vocal performance in West Side Story, that film didn't exactly break box office records.
Her first movie, West Side Story, bombed. Shazam! Fury of the Gods double bombed. Y2K, even a bigger bomb. And now we have Snow White, the biggest bomb of them all.
Fans started labeling her a box office curse, even though it's rare for a single actor to single-handedly tank a movie. The bigger issue was her public demeanor. When Disney cast her as Snow White, people had mixed reactions. Some were thrilled to see fresh talent in a live-action fairy tale. Others criticized the choice, partially because of comments Rachel made about the 1937 original.
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. People will assume it's a love story just because like we cast a guy in the movie, right. Andrew Burnap. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby. The original cartoon came out in 1937 and very evidently so.
Okay.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird.
She infamously called Prince Charming a stalker and described the love story as outdated, saying her version would focus on leadership rather than romance. Some viewers praised the idea of a modernized heroine. Others, however, were taken aback by how she appeared to dismiss the fundamental charm of the classic. The more interviews she gave, the more her words seemed to alienate longtime Disney followers.
Fastest way to tank your career, go out there and start running your mouth and trashing the original IP of the film you're in.
Like, I'm sorry, that's not good enough for you. That's just the story. This is still relevant. Being a young, innocent person, that's something we have all experienced. That is relevant in itself. Again, the values are timeless. You do not need to change.
Then there was her sarcastic quip, "God forbid a woman want to find love," which many interpreted as mocking anyone who likes the old-fashioned fairy tale dream. Online, people dissected every interview clipper, eye rolls, smirks, and choice of phrases. This gave the impression she harbored disdain for the story she was hired to represent. As a result, by the time these group chat leaks came along, the stage was already set for fans to believe the worst about her intentions. One of the most cringeworthy moments occurred when Rachel posted a TikTok video of herself trying to buy a ticket to Snow White at the theater. Armed with branded merchandise and a big smile, she leaned over the counter and asked for tickets.
Please?
For which movie?
The lead actress of the film decided to sit in an empty theater so she can watch her name flash on the screen as she squealed that her film was #1 for 6 days.
Instead of coming off as self-aware humor, the video felt hollow and cringe to many viewers. At the time, news of Snow White's dismal ticket sales was widespread.
Rachel Zegler opened to a dismal $43 million, snagging the title of the lowest debut weekend for any Disney live-action remake, beating 2019's Dumbo.
Disney responded by scaling back the premiere. I don't know that anyone really showed up to the premiere. The Rotten Tomatoes reviews are looking pretty bad.
Some saw her skit as a desperate attempt to spin the narrative, or worse, a clueless joke about the film's failure. Comment sections erupted with accusations of arrogance, calling her out of touch for treating the empty theaters like a punchline instead of a wake-up call. The numbers told a brutal story. With a reported $250 million budget and another $150 million spent on marketing, Disney needed a huge global haul, possibly around $1 billion to break even.
That was the budget before promotion was $270.
Okay.
The promotion budget I just read was $230.
So $500 million.
Correct.
You know the saying, go woke, get broke, and Disney's going to lose money on this movie, and I believe it only made less than $1 million in China.
Instead, it debuted at about $43 million and nosedived by more than 60% in its second weekend. Online chatter blamed everything from poor publicity to the divisive new approach to classic material. But the central figure who took the most heat was Rachel. Worse yet, political lines got drawn. Sean Lennon, son of the famed John Lennon, labeled her a disconnected brat, while ex-race car driver Danica Patrick reposted a takedown video, simply captioning it with "bye-bye." Rachel's own political comments on social media stirred the pot further, leading some fans to say she was alienating half the country.
Don't alienate half of the country when you're putting out a product meant to appeal to all. It's the Michael Jordan Republicans buy sneakers too.
For a Disney princess, whose job is to unite audiences in a family-friendly experience, that was a disastrous move. Behind the scenes, Disney executives were reportedly in panic mode. They'd spent a fortune on Snow White, assuming it would be a massive hit, only to watch the film crash and burn. Investors demanded answers, and many pointed their fingers directly at Rachel's attitude.
Right? She wants the privilege of insulting you, hating you, but then wants you to also show up to her Disney remake of the Snow White that she hates. She thinks we're predictably stupid.
I just have to know the smugness and superiority on this 23, 25, something like that, girl's face. Yeah, and a little bit of humility.
In the end, it seemed Rachel had been elevated too quickly into a role that demanded diplomacy and respect for the brand's legacy, a role she seemed unwilling to embrace. The downfall of Snow White stands as a warning for Hollywood. No matter how powerful a studio or how iconic a story, alienating the fan base is a losing battle. Rachel Zegler, once viewed as a bright new talent, now bears the brunt of that lesson. Whether the group chat leaks were real or manipulated, she's been widely labeled as someone who insults fans, dismisses beloved classics, and refuses to address the controversy. For Disney, the consequences are painful. A multi-million-dollar investment turned into a box office nightmare, forcing the company to question its creative decisions and marketing strategies. Insiders say they're now second-guessing other remakes, looking to avoid the same pitfalls. Some believe this flop could spark a broader shift away from reinterpretations that stray too far from what audiences love. As for Rachel, the future looks cloudy. Will she bounce back with a genuine apology, or double down on her comments? Can she find a studio willing to bet on her after such a polarizing fiasco? Hollywood is unpredictable. A well-placed role or a heartfelt redemption arc might pull her back from the brink. Yet, if she remains silent or continues to antagonize half the fan base, her career could be stuck in limbo. In the end, this wasn't just about a few rude remarks in a private chat. It's about an actress's entire persona rubbing audiences the wrong way, and a corporate giant scrambling to dodge the fallout. One moment, Rachel Zegler was poised to be a generation's new Snow White. The next, she became the face of a cautionary tale. And in an era where social media never forgets, this story won't vanish anytime soon. Love it or hate it, the rise and fall of Rachel Zegler shows how one leak can reshape a Hollywood career. If fans feel insulted, they'll make their voices heard, and once the internet decides you're the problem, getting back into their good graces might be harder than hitting a box office goldmine.